If you're looking for a dish that is packed with flavor and melts in your mouth, then look no further than this Buta no Kakuni, a Japanese home-style dish made with tender marinated pork belly. You can also find this recipe on my website along with over 400 Japanese recipes. Just Google Kakuni space dachi to find me. I'm going to start by taking a frying pan large enough to fit my slab of pork belly and heat it on medium. Place it in the pan and sear it on each side. This is above 700 grams or 1.5 pounds. I've got to say, whenever I make this dish, I always think the pork looks so big at the beginning, but once it's cooked, I always regret not getting a bigger one. Not only because it shrinks, but also just because it's so delicious. Anyway, this step helps render out some of the excess fat, and those grill marks look pretty nice too. But honestly, it's an optional step. Some people don't sear at all. Other people boil first then sear. It's a personal preference. I do find it holds its shape better if you sear it though. Once it's seared all over, take it off the heat and let it cool down a little bit before you cut it. While you wait for it to cool down, you can start boiling your pot of water. When it's cool enough to touch, cut it into cubes a bit bigger than bite size. This pork belly is actually a bit wider than I anticipated, so I'm cutting it in half lengthways first. Ideally, you should do this before searing because now it might lose its shape when simmering, but that's okay, it's still gonna taste amazing. If you're wondering about the name Buta no Kakuni, it's pretty straightforward when you break it down. In Japanese, Buta is pork, Kaku means it's cut into these nice little cubes, and Ni tells us it's all simmered together. Once they're all cut, place them in a pot of boiling water and cook them for 10 minutes. The purpose of this pre-boiling is to remove the excess fat and make the meat extra tender. Pork belly has a lot of fat, but the best part of Kakuni is to enjoy the melted fat. By pre-boiling the meat, you can remove excess fat and only enjoy the tasty parts. After 10 minutes, drain the pork and rinse it with cold water like this. This is just to remove the excess fat I was talking about. Rinse out the pot and fill it back up with fresh water. Bring it to a boil once more and then add the pork back in. This time we're going to make a simple broth, so add 30 grams of sliced ginger root, the green part of a Japanese leek we call negi, or regular leek if it's not available. Adding new ingredients to the pot will lower the temperature of the water, so wait for it to come back to a boil before lowering it to a simmer and leave it to gently bubble for an hour. Check it regularly to make sure the pork is always submerged in the broth and top up the water if necessary. Exposing any part of the pork to the air can cause it to harden or dry out, and that's the opposite of what we want. After an hour, turn off the heat and take 500 milliliters of the stock from the pot. We're going to use this as a base for our marinade. Pour it into a saucepan. And then add 100 milliliters of lager beer. One tablespoon of honey. 2 tablespoons of light brown sugar. And 100 milliliters of soy sauce. We're just going to bring that to a boil. Any brand of lager beer is suitable for this recipe. For a more elegant touch, you could use an equal amount of white wine. And for a more Japanese flavor, swap it for sake. Using alcohol contributes to the melt in mouth texture and improves the overall flavor, so I don't recommend omitting it. As always, all the ingredients and exact measurement for this recipe can be found in the description box below. Once the mixture is bubbling, add the pork belly pieces and leave that to simmer on low for 30 minutes. This time add a drop lid. This will promote even cooking and flavoring and reduce the amount of evaporation. You can check out my how to make otoshibuta video if you don't have one. While we wait, I'm going to show you how to make a classic Japanese leek garnish called Shiraganegi. while I tell you a little history about this dish. Kakuni is believed to have been inspired by the Chinese dongpo pork. Now, if you're wondering how this dish made its way to Japan, we need to travel back to the Edo period, which is around 1603 to 1868. Back then, Japan wasn't exactly open for business with the whole world. They were pretty selective about who they traded with. There was this tiny artificial island called Dejima in Nagasaki Prefecture that served as Japanese window to the outside world. That's where this dish first stepped onto Japanese soil. From there, it spread throughout Kyushu and even made its way to Okinawa. Over time, Japanese cooks started adding their own twist to it, and now it's become such a staple in Japanese home cooking. When we hear the word kakuni, Japanese people like me automatically think of pork belly, but it doesn't have to be pork, and there are also versions that use other ingredients such as tuna, bonito, beef, vegetables, tofu, and konnyaku. Okay, let's check on our pork. It's been simmering for 30 minutes in the marinade, and it looks like this. Technically, you could eat it straight away, but I'm going to continue marinating it off of the heat for even more flavor. I'll leave that to cool completely, and then when it's cool enough to touch, add some boiled eggs, marinate for 1 more hour or longer in the fridge if you have time. When you want to serve it, return it to the stove to warm it through. I'll take the eggs out first because these are soft boiled and I don't want them to overcook, but you can warm them through a bit if you prefer. The braising liquid from Kakuni is a flavorful concoction, rich with the essence of the pork and the depth of soy sauce. Discarding it would indeed be wasteful. You can use this to make noodle soup, as a secret ingredient for curry rice, fried rice, more marinated eggs. You can get creative with it. And there it is, tender melting mouth Japanese Buta no Kakuni with Shiraganegi and bonus marinated eggs. You can serve this as a side dish, or for a complete meal, serve it over rice and transform it into a donburi. It's also perfect for steamed buns. The possibilities are endless. Want even more delicious recipes? Grab my free cookbook from the link in the description. Thank you everyone who voted for this recipe, and thank you for watching. If you'd like to see the written version with more tips and info, check out the article on my blog. I've put the link on the screen. And if you love this video, don't miss my pork playlist popping up on your screen right now. Hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye.